Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to the Winter 2011 New Technology Webinar Series on Information Governance and eDiscovery in the Cloud, sponsored by eDiscovery Solutions Group. I'm Charles Scamser, the moderator of the webinar today. I'm the President and CEO of eDiscovery Solutions Group. A couple of administrative things to start out. Copyright notices. Everything that in today's presentation is copyrighted. We can get copies of the presentation to you if you would like them. Just go ahead and contact us after the presentation and we'll send it to you. We're also recording today's presentation, and therefore it will be on the eDiscovery Solutions Group website. And if you need more information about that, go ahead and contact us. Also, this is not legal advice that we're providing today. We are not lawyers, and so if you have any questions about today's topic, which is eDiscovery and social media, from a legal standpoint, you need to contact your lawyer to get such information. As I said, today's topic is eDiscovery for social media. It's a very hot topic in today's market, obviously. Everybody on the call probably realizes that, or you wouldn't be on the call today. The agenda is introduction of speakers. We're going to do a real brief overview of eDiscovery Solutions Group, known as eDSG. We'll do a quick introduction and discussion of eDiscovery for social media. We're then going to turn the presentation over to our guest panelist today, which will be Skip Lindsay, who is the Executive Vice President of Sales and Business Development for X1 Discovery. And we're going to be looking at X1's technology today, which is eDiscovery for social media. It's called X1 Social Discovery. A little bit about eDSG. We are an international thought leader in information management research and consulting firm. We specialize in analyzing information and governance and eDiscovery technology for the Global 2000. And we provide consulting and research papers for both the Global 2000 and for technology vendors in this marketplace. For those of you who are familiar with us, you probably are aware of our footprint in social media, so this is kind of a hot topic for us. We actually publish a pretty well-known blog called eDiscovery Paradigm Shift. We're very active on Twitter through the eDiscovery group, and then we have also started and manage 4 or 5 different LinkedIn groups within the eDiscovery and information governance market. I wanted to point out that we do manage one called eDiscovery for social media. So for those of you on the call today, obviously this is an important topic to you. I would encourage you to sign up for that LinkedIn group as there's a lot of discussions starting to occur out there in regards to eDiscovery for social media. Let's talk now a little bit about eDiscovery in general. I recognize a lot of the names on this call today, so I think you're all probably pretty familiar with that. But obviously eDiscovery is the process of identifying, collecting, and processing and producing any information, paper or electronic, that may potentially be evidence in a lawsuit. And obviously, as most of you know, there are federal and state and local, even international statutes that govern these processes. And so there are some rules that have to be followed. It's not something that you may want to do. It's something that you definitely have to do. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up and wanting to talk about that and kind of laying the groundwork is, I don't think that in general, as a market or as the Global 2000 or even the almost any organization in the world has been doing a very good job with eDiscovery. In fact, most of the maturity models that you see out there prove or say that the Global 2000 are actually somewhere around level 1 or level 2, which means that they're doing eDiscovery ad hoc or chaotic, or they're just beginning to think about how they're going to manage that process. Obviously, what we're trying to do as an industry is get to level 4 or 5, where it's either semi-integrated or integrated and optimized, and the costs are reduced and so on. Well, so the fact that we're having problems with eDiscovery in general, it doesn't bode well for the fact that we're in the middle of a tsunami of electronically stored information. And I think you're all aware of that. I mean, it's not something that is going to be here in a few years. It's something that's actually already here. In fact, according to Eric Schmidt from Google, every 2 days we create as much information, and most of it ESI, as we did from the dawn of civilization up until 2003. And you really have to sit back and think about that for a few minutes, because that's a pretty startling statistic. There's an awful lot of information coming, and there's no doubt that categorizing it as a tsunami is not an exaggeration. So the other thing that I think we all know is that the majority of that, starting probably a couple of years ago and definitely today, the majority of that is social media. And I'm not going to go through all of this. If, as I said earlier, if you want me to send this out to you, I can. But, you know, just starting to look at some of the unbelievable information that's floating around in social media, you know, makes it easy to understand why we're generating so much electronically stored information. You know, 22 billion tweets were sent on Twitter in 2010. I mean, I've heard that we're going to double that in 2011. 200 million views of YouTube and so on. I mean, you can go down through the list and see that the tremendous amount of social media that's being generated is almost overwhelming. And if you look at it from an eDiscovery standpoint, it's definitely overwhelming. So what do we know? You know, it's pretty easy to figure out where we stand in regards to social media and eDiscovery. First of all, the social media train has definitely left the station. It's not something that might happen, that may happen, you know, something we need to worry about in a couple of years. It's something that's happening right now as we speak. And there's no doubt that pertinent or even smoking gun evidence will come from social media, and most of your eDiscovery and information governance projects or matters or cases from this day forward. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's probably, there's smoking gun evidence or pertinent information probably sitting out there right now or being created as we speak. Another interesting data point is that over the last 22 months, there's been 700 plus federal, state, and local cases where judges have issued a written opinion citing social media. So it's not something that's going to happen, it's something that's already happened. I mean, 700 cases is not a lot in the overall scheme of things, but that number is going to grow tremendously and probably double, triple, if not, you know, go up 10, 15 times over the next couple of years. So social media and eDiscovery is definitely here to stay. So what's one of the things that we really need to be thinking about in regards to social media? Well, obviously, as we just said, eDiscovery for social media is definitely going to happen. But one of the things I think we need to be thoughtful of, it's better to be proactive versus reactive. I mean, I think that a lot of us have gotten into the habit in the industry of, you know, reacting to a request for electronically stored information after the fact, and we're not prepared. I think what we're going to find is that there's so much information that's being produced in social media that we better be proactive, we better be prepared to understand where the social media is, how we're going to get it, how we're going to collect it, how we're going to cull it down, and how we're going to produce it. In addition to that, I'm also going to contend that understanding the use of social media within your organization can be a strategic tool. You know, understanding employees, how they're using social media, what social media tools that they're using, what they're saying, and so on. And I mean, that's really a topic for probably another webinar, but it's sufficient to say that that can become a strategic tool and a strategic advantage for an organization to be prepared and understand how their organizations are using social media and how to actually figure out what they're doing. So what are the options? I mean, obviously you can sit back and do nothing, and you know, that's probably not a particularly good course to take. You can use manual collections and computer forensics, so you can do screen prints. I mean, you can go to you know, Facebook or Twitter and do, you know, screen print after screen print or screen scraping. You know, the problem with that is you're not going to get any metadata. You're not going to be able to search the data once you get it unless you want to somehow manually put it into an Excel spreadsheet. It's going to be very difficult to produce that into a load file format that maybe you can load into one of the document review technologies. So manual collections, you can do that, but it's really not a particularly easy or productive process to go through. There's also some legacy early case assessment tools that do enable you to do some amount of collection and processing of social media. but those tools are very monolithic, and they're also very expensive. I'm not saying that they don't work. I'm just saying that they may be overkill to a certain degree, and it may be not something that you want to put in place just to go look at social media. So what eDSG did over the last 6 months is we actually went out and looked at what was on the marketplace, and we wrote an analyst opinion, and our recommendation was to take a look at a tool from X1 Discovery called X1 Social Discovery. We believe that it may be one of the only, if not the only tool on the market right now that is designed specifically for social media, and also has all of the capabilities that are necessary to allow you to be able to collect, to be able to process, to be able to search, be able to look at all the metadata, and also to be able to produce. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Skip Lindsay, who is here today for X1 Discovery, and is going to talk a little bit about their company, their technology, and is then going to do a demonstration of the product. So I'm going to give the keyboard over to Skip and let him move forward.
Thank you, Charles, and good morning to everybody. Okay, and thank you for that kind introduction. My name is Skip Lindsay. I head up sales and business development for X1 Discovery. And as Charles has mentioned, we have brought to market what we believe to be the first tool that has been exclusively built for the acquisition, analysis, legal review, and production of ESI from social media systems. We are a sister company to X1 Technologies, who some of you may know from the X1 Pro desktop search engine, which we have incorporated under the covers of X1 Social Discovery, which will allow for a unique feature that we call fast as you type searching, which I'll demonstrate for you. So let me dive right in and say that first of all, X1 Social Discovery takes a case-based view of the world. So we allow you to segregate and manage content that is collected on a case-by-case basis. Let me show you what that interface looks like. Within this system, excuse me, I have 2 active cases that have been defined. However, you can have an unlimited number of cases defined to each system. Let me show you the details behind test case 1 here. So when a case is created, X1 Social Discovery awards it a unique case ID and a date of creation, and also has free-form naming areas for test case, description, comments, and so on. In addition, on a case-by-case basis, you can specify where the data will be stored. And this is perhaps a good time to mention the fact that everything that I'm showing you this morning is running on a business class Lenovo 420 laptop. So we do not require dedicated or rather expensive hardware to run the system, but rather are designed to utilize standard business class hardware. So you notice with collection that we can either have it set as ongoing, or after we've gone out and done a collection, we can turn it off and essentially have a preservation set. If collection is set as ongoing, every time I activate this particular case, it will go out and perform a delta collection on the accounts or the public search criteria that I've established for this case. So once we've set up a case, the next step is to go and define the social media systems that we'd like to collect from. And currently we are supporting Twitter, Facebook, and early stage beta support for LinkedIn. So we have 2 ways of performing a collection with X1 Social Discovery. One is known as a credentialed collection, where we have user ID and password, and we are logging into the system as that user and essentially collecting all of the information that is available to that user account. We also have another method of collecting, which is public searching for Facebook and Twitter, In order to do that, essentially you'd set up an examiner or a shell account that would be used as a login to the social media system that you'd care to collect from. And that would be the on-ramp and access to the system itself. We can then issue public searches and capture and archive, index the information coming back that's responsive to those public search criteria. So what I'm going to show you this morning is essentially a combination of a credentialed and public search for this particular case. I am using live accounts for all three systems, and this is the point where I'll issue the standard disclaimer that because it is live data on the internet, occasionally PG-rated material can pop up. If that happens, I'll tab away as quickly as I can. So let me demonstrate for you. For instance, with Twitter, this particular Twitter ID follows approximately 55 different entities and individuals. So all of the tweets from those entities are displayed here in the second panel, essentially in the date order that they were created, or time order rather. To the right here, you'll see a preview panel that is displaying the linked content. One of the unique features of X1 Social Discovery is not only do we capture and archive and index primary content, the 140 characters of the tweet as an example, but we are also capturing and archiving and indexing the linked content as well. Now you notice down here in the lower right-hand corner, the system is currently indexing Twitter. So I'm going through a capture, a Delta collection that I mentioned. The system is out capturing and looking for new information from this account. As Charles mentioned, one of the key attributes of the system is that we are capturing and displaying metadata. You can see here there's the metadata for that particular tweet that's highlighted. We capture over 20 different values of metadata for both Twitter and Facebook content. There are approximately, I think, 22, 23 values available for Twitter and 25 or 26 available for Facebook. So in terms of defensibility and creating a defensible chain of custody and being able to validate the veracity of the content that's been collected, this is an extremely valuable feature, and one that is not available using virtually any other technique, particularly screen scraping and the like. So I'll demonstrate for you also what content looks like from Facebook. So here are all the items for this particular account, Skip Lindsay. I can sort down by various items, posts, items with photos, etc. Now I mentioned fast as you type searching. You'll notice that the content dynamically changes along with the search criteria I'm entering in the top dialog box there. So we dynamically change the content based upon my search criteria. The same is true for Twitter. So you'll see here so my particular search, social media, eDiscovery, you'll notice had a number of hits. So every tweet in this left panel here is responsive to the search term social media, eDiscovery. However, you'll notice that only a small number of the tweets are responsive within the body of the tweet themselves. What this means is that the content responsive to the term social media discovery for this particular tweet from Discover Terrace as an example is actually a hit in the linked content that you can see over here in the preview panel to the right. So this demonstrates the power of archiving not only the primary tweet but also the linked content. Oftentimes what you're looking for is not in the 140 characters of the tweet itself, but within the linked content. So this extends the power of fast as you type searching across both primary and linked content. So as I mentioned, we have the ability to do both public and credentialed searching. So all of the content that you've seen here in the @SkipLindsay Twitter ID is credentialed. This is all responsive, or actually content from the entities that I follow in Twitter. And all the content that you see here is from my personal Facebook account. But what I have also is the ability to go in and create public searches. Now these individuals that you see listed here to the left are not friends of mine. I'm not friended with them in Facebook. I've simply gone out and I've done a public search. So X1 Social Discovery allows me to add in either a username or an account ID and search on that value. And once I've done that, I can add these accounts into my public search stack, as I've done here for these individuals. I also have the ability to create general queries searching for public posts, and I've created one here for Occupy Wall Street, or OWS, which is my search term, and I've named the query OWS. So let me demonstrate for you. Here's all the content that I was able to capture that Pete Cashmore has allowed to be publicly facing. And again, I'm not friends with Mr. Cashmore. We have no association other than the fact that he does utilize social media as a means of communication and kind of personal brand creation. And so therefore there's a fair amount of information that is publicly facing. So through nothing more than issuing this simple search looking for publicly facing comment for these individuals, I was able to capture, archive, and index all of this publicly facing information. In addition, you'll recall I had a query that I created called OWS, and Facebook has returned 359 results of publicly facing posts that are responsive to that particular query. We can also further filter that information to sort it down and help us find only the responsive information that we are searching for. And again, all of the metadata values for each of these items is instantly available. I also have the ability to change from a panel view to a column view, and it gives me the opportunity to essentially do a power search on the metadata values themselves. Now you notice here that we have MD5 hash values. When X1 Social Discovery ingests information, we automatically calculate an MD5 value, MD5 hash value for all the items which we're archiving. So using this interface here, it's kind of the power search interface that allows me to instantly filter and search information based upon the metadata values. So I'll switch back to a more human-friendly view. I also have the ability to search public Twitter, and with a release that we will have next week, we will have the ability to follow an individual in Twitter without creating a follow notice, which is, of course, quite important, particularly with attorneys that have very strict rules about communication with other parties.
Skip,
okay.
we had a question.
So we're showing a...
Skip, can you hear me? This is Charles. We had a question. Does the publicly available data have the same metadata capability, search of the same metadata capability?
It does indeed. It does indeed. Let me demonstrate that for you very quickly here. You'll recall there were a couple of chaps by the name of David Kennedy that I searched on. And see here, there's one of the public posts, and there's the metadata available for that post.
Okay,
so back to public searching of Twitter. I'm sorry, was there another question?
No more questions. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Charles. So going back to searching twitter.com with a simple search term, social media, eDiscovery, Twitter returned these results. And again, I can refine that in any way that I choose. And with the public search, not only are we bringing back the primary tweet content, but also instantaneously bringing back the link content, indexing that, and making that fully searchable as well. Now you'll notice a number of tags across the top here. These are all user definable. I've created 5 tags here for the purposes of demonstrating the system. So I can apply those very easily. So it's very nice ECA, first pass review interface for reviewing the social media ESI. I can further filter and search on those. And once I've filtered based upon the tag values or other search criteria values, I can very easily generate a deliverable in a standard concordance load file format. And we will soon have support for CSV export as well, as early as the end of this week, actually. So a quite common question also is, what does it look like once it's been exported out to concordance? This is actually a load file that has been imported into concordance version 10. So what you'll notice here is I have a Facebook post highlighted. I've got the body of the post. I have all the metadata for the post. And we are storing all of the content that we archive as .mht format files. So running a simple CPL script as you would to link any other file back into the review set. Here's a linked MHT, and that's what a fully resolved Facebook post looks like as an MHT file. So you can see we have all of the information, including photos. Let me see if I can find one here with a number of comments or likes. There we go. So that gives you an idea as to what the data looks like once it's been imported into concordance format. And again, we'll also support a standard CSV export in the next couple of days to support migration of the data to other platforms as well. So that really is how the system functions. What it looks like. I've demonstrated both a credentialed and public search of both Twitter and Facebook. As I mentioned, our LinkedIn support is currently in beta state, and we are capturing statuses, connections, and other user info. We're working on other aspects of LinkedIn support, but this is currently what we have for this system. So you see that not only do we get the content, but also a rich array of metadata that's available, and have the ability to facilitate ECA and then export into standard review platforms. So Charles, that about wraps it up for my demo, if there are any questions.
Yeah, I've actually got several questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and go through those. The first one was kind of gets back to the notice that we had at the beginning. We're not giving out legal advice here, but the question was, is it legal to use this tool to go and retrieve data from Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, even though it's not protected?
Well, again, and I'm certainly not an attorney, but let me mention a couple of things. First of all, we are using the published APIs from all of these systems. So we're using the actual APIs that Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn make available for obtaining this information. Secondly, we're not usurping any of the security settings within any of these accounts. So we're not surreptitiously getting around any privacy settings that a user has defined for their account or for the content within their account. So the information that I was able to display is truly information that the users have set as being public-facing or publicly available.
Okay, great. Next question is, why is it important to be able to see and search the metadata?
Well, it's really important, and again, we've taken best practices that have been long established in the area of data acquisition, sometimes referred to as data forensics. One thing I did not mention, I should have, is that we search and retrieve data in a read-only mode. So we are not altering any of the content or metadata through the process of collection. But frankly, the reason that metadata is available is it allows you to establish the veracity of the content that you've captured. I mean, you can see here there's a rich array of information regarding the accounts that created the information and other information that is quite valuable in terms of, again, being able to validate the veracity of the data. This is something that, frankly, is impossible to do if you're using a print screen or a screen scraper. And anybody that's had the pleasure of testifying into court as to the methodology that was used to collect data and the defensibility of not only the data itself, but the chain of custody and how it was handled, would find the metadata unbelievably valuable.
Okay, thanks, Skip. A couple more questions. You kind of addressed this a little bit. They wanted to know about first pass review, and basically you said this does provide first pass review, but the question revolved around whether or not X1 is marketing this tool as a complete early case assessment tool if all of the evidence is going to be in social media, let's just say Facebook or Twitter, and you believe that you could actually get ready for a 26F meet and confer meeting using just the X1 social discovery tool.
Well, again, I'm not an attorney, but I will point out, I mean, the obvious is that we believe we have a very efficient interface that's been built to specifically address the social media content. Again, the fast as you type indexing that allows me to very quickly search across account data that may have been pulled in from multiple accounts gives us a very efficient way. A very efficient way of searching. I would submit to you that what we have is a very good ECA or first pass review interface. But certainly we recognize the need to have a more formal review interface that would be multi-tenancy and provide the review capabilities that legal professionals are used to having, which is why we support export into standard tools such as concordance and relativity.
Okay, thanks, Skip. Last question. Actually, you've already answered a couple of the questions. But the last question that hasn't been addressed is, and again, this is almost an opinion question, and they want to know if X1 Social Discovery could be used to monitor employee Facebook and Twitter use.
Well, from a technical perspective, X1 Social Discovery could be used to monitor any account for which you either have credentials or, as I've demonstrated here, has the ability to monitor information which is publicly facing from any account. So the answer is, I mean, certainly within the technical confines of what I've demonstrated here this morning, it could be used to monitor any account. Whether one would choose to do that or not for that particular use case, I think could spawn an entire webinar around that discussion alone.
No, I agree. One last question, actually, and that is, what does this cost?
It's a great question, and thank you very much. We have priced this to really hopefully take any major financial consideration out of the equation. We sell it on an annual basis. So a copy of X1 Social Discovery for a one-year license is $945, and that is inclusive of software updates and support.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and take control of the screen back.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at a summary. As we said, I mean, if you look at the whole area of social media, the train has definitely left the station. It's not something that's going to happen. It literally has already happened. And as I said in the introduction, there's already been 700 plus cases in the last 22 months at both the federal and state and some local level, where judges have issued a written opinion citing something about social media. So it's something that the courts are already looking at. There's more than likely, as I said, more than likely there's already possibly smoking gun evidence sitting out in a social media platform like Twitter or Facebook, or if it isn't, it's possibly going to be. When you look at things like sexual harassment, SEC violations, insider trading, even intellectual property issues and so on, more than likely now the illegal communications is probably going to occur in Twitter or Facebook or someplace like that. In fact, there's been a lot of articles written lately that email is dead from a communication standpoint. I'm not sure I would go that far, but I think you're starting to see a tipping point where social media is being used for communications at a higher rate than email is. So obviously we can't ignore the whole issue of eDiscovery for social media. Interesting that one of the last questions was, could you actually use this to monitor employee usage of Facebook and Twitter? Possibly. There's legal issues involved in that we're not prepared to address today, but from a technical standpoint, absolutely. So to a certain degree, there may be some strategic advantage for organizations to use a technology like this to understand how their organizations are using social media, or even how their competitors are talking about them, or things like that. So there is some strategic advantage. we talked about the dangers of manual collection. No metadata, no ability to really search, no ability to produce a load file into one of the review tools, no ability to tag. So you can do manual collection and processing, or really just manual collection. I'm not sure you can do any processing, but it makes a lot more sense to take a look at a tool like X1 Social Discovery. And I think that's why the analysts at eDSG actually have recommended X1 Discovery in their tool, X1 Social Discovery, because we believe that it's one of the only tools on the market today that actually addresses the issues that are important as social media begins to take over the majority of where ESI for cases and so on are going to reside. So with that, if we don't have any more questions, I'm looking on the panel over here. It appears that we don't. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. As an added bonus for those of you that stuck around through the entire presentation, we appreciate that. And if you contact us, we actually have a discount code for you of 10% off. And so if you'd like to buy social media, you'll get 10% off for the first year's license fee. If you have any additional questions about the use of X1, you can contact myself or Skip directly. And again, if you'd like a copy of this presentation, we can provide that to you, and a recording of the entire webinar will be available on the eDiscovery Solutions Group website sometime later this afternoon or tomorrow. So with that, happy holidays, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the last in the webinar series for 2011 on new technology and eDiscovery and information governance. Have a nice day.